At another video, I was talking about relations and how weird and confusing we are. We have to laugh at ourselves at every moment possible. But the thing is that I want to go further on that discussion. That is, I want to talk about something that I mentioned before, but I want to talk again because I'm living this situation right now, and I've lived this situation before, and I think that many of you have had similar experiences, I believe. And the thing is that I'm talking about expectations, my friends. Expectation, that's a great problem. But before we talk about that, let me talk about a little bit about the meaning of this word. Let's see. Expectation is the same as hope. For example, when we hope for something, when we want something to happen afterwards in the future, and I've mentioned this before. I'm gonna say it again. Lao Tzu in Tao Te Ching says that fear and hope are both phantoms that arise from believing in the self. That is, for example, fear is the urge to preserve the self, to survive. It comes from our personality. And there is hope. Hope happens towards the future when one might create this expectation about what might happen and what someone one wants to happen. And that is interesting to think about, my friends, because as I mentioned before, also I said that one thing is knowing the path, and another thing is walking the path. And that is interesting, my friends, because when we mix all this, I just said, we put it together, we have to laugh at ourselves because we are constantly creating expectations, you know, and those expectations are related to people, are related to situations, are related to ideas that we create. And the interesting thing about all this, my friends, is that when we look at our reactions and then everything we do, we tend to crave to create this attachment to people, to ideas, expecting them to act in a certain way because we acted in a certain way, you know. Because, for example, I used to believe that if I treat people well, people will treat me well, and that is, unfortunately, that's not the reality we live in. We have this little problem, as we say. We can't expect that. But let's go back to the general sense of it all. We can't create expectations towards anything in the world, in the external world, because expectations, my friends, are an illusion, such as fear, and that's deep because our society is based on expectations. It's created, the culture is developed on top of that phenomenon. That is, it's the system we live in is based on the results of the actions in how the world will react to those actions. So in creating this situation, this so-called hope for something to happen, we create suffering. We create a fertile environment for our minds to flow endlessly into thoughts and ideas that are just illusions that trap us in those imagined situations. How weird is all that, my friends? Because we have to laugh at ourselves constantly. And I'm saying this, of course, it's my experience. I'm having this trouble with expectations and all that. And I want to leave this idea here so each and every one of you can think about it. Because probably you have experienced that type of situation in your life. For example, creating expectations, hoping for something, or experiencing fear. Because we live in this world of fear. the system that needs us to fear constantly, to be in that state of fear. But the thing is that we need to survive in such environment. And to survive in such environment, our mind creates these strategies to survive. It is interesting, my friends, because it's not about becoming antisocial. No, it's not that. But it's to witness reality and allow oneself to be completely present in anything one must do. You know what I mean? The very fact that we will need to interact with each other regardless of anything else, we can be smarter and understand the vibrations, because science explains to us that everything is vibration. Everything is in a state of vibration, being energy, and we are in states of vibration. And we as humans, we have this ability to understand those vibrations. Of course, in many of us, this ability is hidden, because to access those types of understandings, one needs to have the type of awareness, or the level of awareness, if you might think. One has to be in such a state that he can understand and listen and see and feel those vibrations. And my friends, that's a path that we all need to work on at some point, because everything is in a state of vibration, and we need to align those vibrations with the vibration of the cosmos, probably the bigger picture. Maybe that's the aim of everything. But expectations and fears, they are actually illusions, my friends, and we need to accept that so we can move forward. And understanding and accepting that, probably we'll be able to step away from those concepts and detach ourselves from those concepts. But we have to understand that on the mind level, so we can go over it. We can live in the past. We can have changed that idea in our minds, because everything turns back to awareness, to consciousness. After all, everything is mandala.